Hello and welcome to another live stream on Retire Inspired. I hope everyone is having a great week. Look forward to talking to everybody tonight. It has been a better week as far as the weather goes. It has been really comfortable, getting comfortable. Let me see if I can straighten my camera up just a little bit. I don't like being crooked. Okay, how's that? Marty Baker, welcome to the live stream. Well, I hope you all had a great Sunday. Hope you can hear me okay. It was a very interesting week. We lost a young man by the name of Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk was someone who was a Christian and was part of the far-right movement. A lot of people didn't agree with him, and a lot of people didn't like him. A lot of people did like him, including President of the United States, who he helped get elected. But today, on today's live stream, I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about 9/11. 9/11, 2001. Who remembers 9/11, 2001? Who remembers what you were doing on 9/11, 2001? Well, I remember exactly what I was doing when the first plane hit the Twin Towers in New York City on September 11th, 2001. I was in my office. I think it was a little after 9 o'clock in the morning. And I was in my office, and I had, we get to work at 8, or we did get to work at 8. And I was working in Phoenix City, Alabama, which is on Eastern Standard Time. So, so it was still like 9 o'clock in the morning when we first heard that the first plane hit the towers. Last week was September 11th. It was the 2000, 9/11/01. So it would have been like the 20. My math is showing, isn't it? Let's see. 2025 minus 2011. 2001. 24 years. So it's been 24 years. Hey, Marty. She says, hi, how am I doing? I'm doing excellent. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing all right tonight. CG Anime Fan, he says he has a cold, but he hopes that everyone else is feeling really well. Well, I'm sorry that you have a cold, CG. Sounds like you've been getting sick a lot lately. And welcome, Jim. Hotty toddy. Gumball Gold. How are you doing tonight? How are things in the big city of, what is the name? He's in Mississippi. How do you like my beard, by the way? Starting to come in. Starting to look like a different person. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is that that's staring back at me? CG says, yeah, I feel tired of feeling sick. But, so yeah, thank you, CG. He says the beard looks really good. And Gumball Gold says, you look like a manly, I'm sure that was supposed to say manly man, okay? Yeah, manly man. Well, this is the first time I've had a beard ever in my life, and I kind of like it. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to keep it for a while, so we'll just kind of see what happens. But yeah, thinking about September 11th, 2001, I was working for the State Department of Human Resources in Alabama. That's what I retired from, the Alabama Department of Human Resources, which in many states is called the Alabama Department, or it's called the Department of Family and Children's Services. In Alabama, they call it the Department of Human Resources, and I was working for them as a social worker. And I was a supervisor over the foster care division in the county where I worked. But I was sitting at my desk and I heard this older gentleman who worked in the office running down the hallway, just insane and screaming at the top of his voice. And he was just screaming out. He was saying, "We're at war! We're at war! We're at war!" And that's what he was screaming as he was running down our long corridor where our offices were, and people were in their offices, and if you ever work for a child welfare agency or any kind of social work agency, it's majority women. So here's this guy running up and down the hallway yelling, "We're at war, we're at war, we're at war." And so my wife at the time, we're no longer married, we've been divorced since then. But my wife at the time also worked in the same office with me, and she and I went out to the lobby where there was a TV hanging from the wall. You know how they used to have the old CRT TVs hanging from the wall with these big mounts, and so you can imagine this TV hanging from the wall, and we're watching live TV and watching the first tower burning. And at first they're like, they don't know if it's an accident. They don't know if maybe a pilot had a navigational error, or if there was some kind of issue with the plane and maybe they lost control of the plane and accidentally hit the tower. They didn't know what was going on. But we went out to the lobby just in time to see live footage of the second plane hitting the second tower. And when that happened, you knew instantly this was no mistake. This was not a pilot error. This was no issue with a plane having a mechanical problem. This was an intentional attack on the United States financial sector, because you all know the Twin Towers was where a lot of financial activity occurred for the United States, as far as, with our banking and stock market and that sort of thing. So they knew that if they hit our financial markets, that it would have a huge impact on the United States. Financially, the United States is more impacted on a financial basis than the loss of lives, but the loss of lives was also quite high. I did a little search on the number of lives that were lost in the Twin Towers, but I also did a search on the number of people who escaped the Twin Towers. So the number of people who died on September 11th, according to this, was 2,977 people were killed, not including the 19 hijackers. And this also includes the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, and the four hijacked planes, the people who died on those planes. 343 of those people that died were firefighters and police officers and Port Authority officers who just showed up to try to help people. They were not there. They would not have been there other than the fact that the towers were attacked. An interesting note is Of the hijacked planes, a total of 246 people died on those 4 planes. 246 people were killed. Flight 93, the one near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, had 40 passengers and crew. They all died, as you know. So the number of people who escaped the Twin Towers was a lot more than the ones who died. So they estimate that anywhere between 14,000 and 15,000 people escaped the World Trade Center towers on the day of the attacks. Now, anyone above a certain level of where the planes struck the buildings, those people were not possible for them to escape the buildings. They were doomed. From the time that plane hit the building, they were doomed. They were not going to survive. So September 11th was a very tragic day in American history. And when September 11th came around, I thought about making a video on the day of September 11th. But I had a lot of things going on that day, and so I wasn't able to sit down and make a video. So I figured I would talk about it today on my live stream and just, share with you guys what I was doing on that particular day, and also after that. After that incident happened, my life was impacted in a huge way. I don't know how you guys were affected, the ones in this conversation that were alive at the time that this happened. I don't know how your lives were impacted, but my life was impacted in a huge way. And I can tell you, how that happened, how my life was impacted. The way it was impacted was, number one, I was, at the time that the attack occurred, I was in the not in the National Guard, I was in the Air Force Reserves. And my job in the Air Force Reserves, I was a police officer, but I also taught weapons. I taught people how to shoot pistols, and I taught them how to shoot machine guns and rifles. And that was my job in the Air Force at the time. I was a police officer, but I also was a weapons instructor, a combat arms instructor is what they call it. And so when that second plane hit the tower, and I knew that we were under attack, then I also knew that it probably wouldn't be too long before I was called to active duty to serve in the military full time until indefinitely. Who knows? Who knew how long it was going to be? But I knew, as a reservist, or as a part-time airman, I knew that I was going to be called to duty. And that's exactly what happened. It didn't happen immediately. It didn't happen until November of 2001. The attacks happened September 11th, and then in November, I received presidential orders for 2 years on active duty, and I had to report to Maxwell Air Force Base, which was here in Montgomery. At the time, I lived in Phoenix City, so I was, or close to Phoenix City. I lived in Salem, Alabama. But at the time, I had to commute to Montgomery in order to go, get my orders, and I had to come up here. And I actually had to live here in Montgomery, and I stayed in a hotel that the military paid for. It was an extended stay hotel, and I stayed in that extended stay hotel for a period of about 8 months. And then after that, a lot of my unit was deployed overseas to the Middle East, and I was deployed to around Orlando to the Air Force Base down there, where we worked down there and taught for most of that year. I taught people in our reserve unit how to shoot weapons, and that was my job. So what did you guys do? Or for those of you who are old enough to remember, where were you and what were you doing when September 11th happened? Would really like to hear from you guys on that. But I'm going to go ahead and update you guys on some other things. Next week, I'm planning, a week from today, I will be getting in Ethel, my van, and I will be traveling to North Carolina, where I will be my plan is to attend Mayberry Days in Mount Airy, North Carolina. So looks like there's a schedule already available, but I'm going to share with you a little bit about what Mayberry Days is. Mayberry Days is a week-long activity. So Mayberry Days, Marty says she was just a kid when 9/11 happened. Yeah, you were too young to really know what was going on then. But I can tell you, it was a day that I will never forget, and I will never forget where I was and what I was doing, and everybody that was there. I don't think anybody will be able to forget. So, looks like the Mayberry Days actually starts on Friday, September 19th. And it starts at 9 a.m. and goes through 5 p.m. So there's a 9 a.m. Andy Griffith Museum goes from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then the Siamese Twins Museum. I don't know if you all are familiar with it, but the famous twins, the Siamese twins, were from Mount Airy. This is them. I don't know if you've ever seen information about them in the Guinness Book of World Records, but they are the longest living, I believe, co-joined Siamese twins. And they actually lived in Mount Airy, North Carolina, the same place where Andy Griffith was from. Can you believe that? So 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. is Old Time Music Heritage Hall, and that is included with the Andy Griffith Museum ticket. So I need to get me an Andy Griffith Museum ticket. 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock is a movie Downtown Abbey, the grand finale. And then 7:30 is the attractions. So it looks like there is Saturday on September 20th. Same thing. Pretty much the same thing as Friday. Sunday, September 21st, which is a week from today. Pretty much the same stuff as the previous 2 days. Now the 22nd is where it's going to get fun. So there is a guided tour of the Andy Griffith Playhouse, Old Time Music Heritage Hall, and John Floyd, The Mouth of Mayberry, and Randy Riggle, The Nostalgia Show. And then Tuesday is museum again, Mount Airy Visitor Center, Playhouse, Old Time Music Heritage Hall, Murder in Coweta County. I don't know what that is. But you see this this guy with this car he's driving that looks like one of Andy's police cars. They do tours around Mayberry, and you can ride around with them in those cars and just get a tour of Mayberry, which I think is pretty cool. Wednesday, let's see, Thursday, Mayberry Days at Postmark. That's when they have the Mayberry Days Parade, starting at 9 a.m. The parade down Main Street and Rockford Street to the Andy Griffith Playhouse. And they're going to have auctions, and they're going to have raffles and chapel on Sunday. Bill Knotts. Who is Bill Knotts? Mayberry Memories of Don Knotts. So Bill Knotts I don't know if he's related to Don Knotts. He appeared as Professor Harold Hill in The Music Man, Snoopy, You're a Good Man in Charlie Brown, Sir Thomas More in Anne, many other theater roles. Ronnie Shell returns to Mayberry Days with an hour of stories from his Hollywood career. So Ronnie Shell, do you know who Ronnie Shell is? Schell. I don't know who he is. Oh, Ronnie Shell. Ronnie Shell is the guy that played Snyder in Gomer Pyle USMC. Ronnie Shell. So I'll get to meet him on the 25th at 2 o'clock. So Valerie says she was working at Goodwill when September 11th happened. Do you remember what you did, Valerie? Did you stop working, or did you all go watch a TV, or how was your life impacted after September 11th? And I will tell your sister that you said hello. How's my weekend been? Pretty good so far. Yesterday we went yard selling, and I got a lot of video game stuff this past weekend when I went yard selling. I'll tell you what I got. I got two Nintendo 64 video game consoles. I got one with two controllers. It had a green controller, and it also had a gray controller. But the green controller came in really handy, and I'll tell you why. Because when I went to one yard sale, I bought one of the N64s that I got at the yard sale. I paid $15 for it. It was the jungle green version of the N64. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like if I can pull up a picture here. I'll show you what the green version looks like. But this is a real special version. I paid $15 for it. I've already tested it, so I know it works. I paid $15 for this console. So let me show it to you. There it is. It's called Jungle Green. That console's called Jungle Green, and I paid $15 for the console, and I tested it, and it works great. And the controller that I got with the other console, those are both the controllers I got with the other console, but that controller right there matches the Jungle Green console. And I paid $35 for the other console with both controllers, and so I should be able to get about $180 for this Jungle Green console because it's translucent and it is in a bright green color. I'm going to put this in the flea market booth. Now I did have to order a door for this expansion pack right here. It didn't have a door. I'll show you closer up. It didn't have a door on this expansion pack. That's the expansion pack right there. But this thing works great, no problem at all. And here is the other one I got. It's just a regular one. So I paid $35 for this one and $15 for the other one. So I've got $40 in both of them. I should be able to get $120 for this one. I'll put it, with the cords with it and all that stuff. But I should get $140 for that one. So that would be a pretty good Okay, so let's catch up on the comments. Valerie says her mother was in Louisiana and Marty was at daycare. And my brother says hi. Well, hey, William, how are you doing? Gumball Gold Jim says, I ordered a new gumball machine that just came out that looks like a rocket ship. Can't wait to get it here. It will be an eye catcher. Wow. Well, I look forward to seeing your video on that one. Valerie says she didn't feel safe anymore after September 11th. Well, our whole world changed and our whole perspective on things changed that day, didn't it? Because, we had not just one plane, not just two planes, but three planes attack our country. 2 World Trade Centers destroyed, and one flew into the Pentagon and destroyed part of the Pentagon. And then we had a 4th plane that was supposed to go to the White House, is what they say. And it just, thanks to the passengers that were on that plane, it didn't make it to its destination. But unfortunately, everyone on that plane lost their lives. I'll show you a couple more of the pickups that I got this weekend that were really super good. I got this Nintendo Switch bundle. And this is a new, practically a brand new Nintendo Switch. And I got this, plus I got a one of those handhelds, DS, a Nintendo DS, and I got a PlayStation 3 console. All of them in together. I paid $150 for all 3 of them, which is quite a bit of money for one place. But I have this Nintendo Switch listed on my eBay account for It's listed for $285. These Nintendo Switches are quite expensive. When he bought it brand new, it was $335. So I also got this game here. It's a Nintendo DS game, and it sells for about $50. That was at a different yard sale. And at the other yard sale, I got this game at the same yard sale as that last one. It's a Mario Kart Deluxe, and it's for a Switch. So I had a game that I could test out with my Switch, with my new Switch. Now, these N64 games were very valuable. I paid $10 a piece for them, and I've got this one listed for $110. It's called Pokemon Puzzle League. And this other one is the Donkey Kong game. This is the game. It has an expansion pack with it, but it's a Donkey Kong 64, and I paid $10 for this game in the box with the manual, and it is worth, with this expansion pack, it is worth about $180. So that was another really good pickup that I had for the weekend. Gumball Gold said he also collected $84 from a location that more than paid for the groceries for the week. Yeah, I can imagine. That's a lot of money for one location. Good job. Marty says, when are you going to post more videos? I plan on posting more this week. I'll put another video up this week. I haven't decided what I'm going to do, what kind of video I'm going to make, but I do think I'm going to post a video this coming week. Marty says she's watching the Falcons versus Minnesota. Also got at a yard sale for $1. I got this iPad case. It looks like it's in like brand new condition, but it's got the Mario stuff on the front of it. It's got Mario and Luigi and whatever these other characters are. I got that at the thrift store for $1.89. So I haven't looked this one up, but just guessing off the top of my head, I think this iPad case will sell for about $25 to $30. So that'll be a good deal. Also got a what is it called? Pioneer Woman. I know a lot of you guys are watching are men, but I know Valerie might know, Marty might know, but I got this Pioneer Woman Instant Pot. Are you familiar with Instant Pots? They're really cool. They're like pressure cookers, and you can put food in there and you can cook it, and it cooks it really quick. It's like a pressure cooker, like a modern pressure cooker, but much safer. But I got this, let me see if I can find one on eBay to see what they're worth, because I haven't even looked it up. But it's called, what did I just say? Pioneer Woman. Instant Pot. Okay, so wow, looks like they get pretty good. They sell for pretty good. So I paid $5 for this Pioneer Woman Instant Pot, and I'm going to show you what it's selling for. Okay, so these are some of the Instant Pots that have sold, and remember I told you I paid $5 for it. So here's one that sold. This is exactly like the one I bought. and it sold for $75. And mine actually has more accessories than this one. It has a lid that's with it as well. But this is exactly like the Instant Pot that I bought at the yard sale yesterday for $5. And it sold for $75. So here's another one that sold for $120, but it had the box with it. But I didn't even know Pioneer Woman made Instant Pots. Here's another Instant Pot that sold for $89. It's a Pioneer Woman. So that's exactly like the one I picked up this weekend for $5. I also picked up another one that was just a regular Instant Pot for so that's a couple of the pickups that I had this weekend. I had a really good weekend yard selling. It was really nice. Marty says that's Mario, Luigi, Bowser, and Yoshi. So she knows who they are. And Marty says, where is Tigger? Well, Tigger is somewhere in the house. Marty says she thinks that her grandmother has an Instant Pot like that. It's called a crock pot. No, it's not called a crock pot. It's different than a crock pot. A crock pot is a slow cooking pot. An Instant Pot is pressurized and it cooks things very quickly. That's why it's called an Instant Pot. But it's a really great tool to have in the kitchen if you don't have one. I would recommend you get one because they are really good. You can cook a pot roast in like 30 minutes with these things. So it's really good. Trying to think of what else I picked up this weekend. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab a couple things. Okay, so at this one yard sale, they had these blankets, and these, it's football season, so I figured it'd be a good time to pick this up. But this is a South Carolina Gamecock embroidered blanket, and it's made for taking out, to the ball games and covering up with it. It's 50 inches by 60 inches, and it's fleece, so it's like a throw blanket. It's actually a very big blanket, and you can take it to the ball games and, put it over you while you're watching the football games. I got 2 of those, and I paid $5 each. I don't know what they're worth, but that was pretty good. I got these games also at the same place where I got those N64 games that are really valuable. So I haven't put these on yet, but this is a really good one. It's a Nintendo 3DS Super Smash Brothers, and these things go for around $30-40. I paid $10, so that's a good one. The Legends of Zelda is a good one. It's also Nintendo 3DS, and these are all about $30 a piece. and I paid $5 a piece or $10 a piece for them. Sonic the Lost World through Nintendo 3DS also, and then another Zelda game. This is Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and they're all 3DS games. But these were $10 a piece, and they're valued about $30 each. I think this Super Smash Bros. May be worth $40. It's a really good game. So I had a super good weekend yard selling. And I picked this up just because I liked the way it looked. If you don't know what this is the U-2 stealth spy plane. And they use these to spy on other countries. They fly at an altitude of about 70,000 feet, where they avoid or evade other countries' radar, and they spy on other countries that we're actively in war with, and also countries that we're not actively in war with, but we just want to check on them and see what they're doing. But this is the precursor for the SR-71, which was also a stealth plane. But this is the U-2 spy plane. Thought that was really random that it was at the thrift store. It was $1.50. So I don't know what it's worth, but I just got it because I liked the way it looked. I may even just hang it from the ceiling. But let me show you guys what's been happening with the flea market booth, in case you're curious. Anybody curious about the flea market booth? If you're curious, say you're curious. If you don't care, just let me know. I don't care. I don't want to know. Okay, so this week has been pretty good, but not as good as the previous week. So, not bad. Pretty much everyday sales of some kind or another, but I'll show you guys what the sales look like. So we'll start with the 1st of September. I sold 2 Prince albums, one for $26 and one for $35, for a total of $61. On the 2nd, I sold one of those WrestleMania action figures for $9. On the 3rd, I sold a Johnny Lightning Poker 1961 Pontiac car for $7. Looks like I did not have any sales on the 4th, and on the 5th I sold a couple of these little keychains that I bought. They're called My Hero Academia, and they're like anime kind of stuff. So one sold for $9 and the other one sold for $14, so I had $23 in sales that day. And then on the 6th was my best day so far. I sold 3 DVDs at $5 for $15, and then they got the 4th one for free because I have a special going on. Buy 3 get 1 free. Need for Speed game for the PlayStation 2 and the Sweetwater metal sign. I think I told you guys about this sale last week. That metal sign I picked up. The Pepsi sign. I sold a metal sign that says Sweetwater on it, and then I sold a vintage Pepsi metal sign, which is a little bigger, for $65 with 10% off. So it was $58.50 is what they ended up paying for it. But it's interesting that I picked up that. Did I tell you guys about this last week? Or if not, let me know. CG says My Hero Academia is pretty popular anime franchise about superheroes. And he says he hasn't seen too much of My Hero Academia, but seems kind of cool. Well, okay. I'm going to show you some of the Academia stuff that I got, if you'd like to see it. I got this at the thrift store about 2 weeks ago, and I put it in my booth. By the way, while we're looking for that My Hero Academia stuff, tell me, what do you guys think of my new logo? Do you like it? I took everything you guys told me on the last live stream we did and added it to the logo. I have the Alabama flag in the background. I have my my van. I have an eBay thing, and I have my cat. So I think I put everything in there that you guys were suggesting. So what did you guys think about that? Do you like the logo? All right, so I'm going to share with you, since CJ brought it up, I'm going to share with you the Academia stuff that I got. All right, CG, tell me if you recognize any of these characters. I'm just going to go through them. I picked up all of these at one place. It was at a thrift store, and they were like, 10 cents each. So I'm selling them for about $10 each. And these are all just keychains, loose keychains. But there was also some new in the box stuff. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the new in the box stuff to show you that. I don't know if I took pictures of it. I guess I didn't take pictures of it. But do you recognize any of the ones that I showed you on that I just had? CG? This is that Pepsi sign that I was telling you about. I may have mentioned it in last live stream last weekend, but this Pepsi sign was in somebody else's booth for $25, and I picked it up and put it in my booth, put a sticker on it for $65, and it sold a week later for $65. Marty says she likes the logo. CG doesn't know the first guy. He recognizes the others but don't remember most of their names. So that was a pretty good pickup. I picked that up in someone else's booth for $25, bought it, and then put it in my booth for $65. So back to the sales. So I sold that vintage Pepsi sign for $65 when it was 10% off, so it ended up being $58.50 for a total of $98.50. And then I sold a wall hanging, which was a car, and it sold for $30. I think I picked that up at yard sale for $5. Hot Wheels Chevelle for $7 on the 8th. Kanye West, that tweet flag that I had in my booth that I really like the tweet flag. I kind of wish it hadn't sold, but that flag that I had hanging up on the back of my glass display case that had the Kanye West tweet that said, "If I were any cooler, I would freeze to death," on it, and they bought that for $24 on the 9th or the 10th. I sold two DVDs, movies, $5 a piece for $10. And I sold a video game for an Xbox One, Assassin's Creed, for $10, and a vintage Hot Wheels for $18 on the 12th for $28 for the day. Didn't sell anything on the 13th, which was yesterday, which is surprising because Saturday is usually the best day of the week. But today I sold it looks like 3 comics for $15 total, and then a Hot Wheels NASCAR racing car for $15 for a total of $30 in sales today. So my total since the 1st of September, from the 1st to the 15th, well, tomorrow will be the 15th, is going to be $327.50, which isn't too bad. Wish it could be a little bit more, but I'll take it. It's not too bad. Hopefully it can keep going up a little more and more, but we'll see. I'm going to print that off because I like to keep a copy for my records. So there I go. I'm going to print it. So it hadn't been a terrible 2 weeks for the booth. Tomorrow I should be able to pick up my check for that 2-week period. So that'll be good. Make sure my Wi-Fi is on my printer. Looks like the printer is kind of locked up there. All right, I'll go back to that. So that's the booth. Now I will share with you my sales on eBay. Anybody interested in that? Say you're interested if you're interested. It's saying I got to turn my printer off and back on in order to print that. So I'll go back to that and do it later. So Gumball Gold says, sure. I know you're just captivated. So let's go to my sales. First we got to go to my account. Sales have been kind of slow the last couple of days, but that's my fault because I haven't been consistently listing in the last couple of days. I actually got my 31-day total over $5,000 for a little bit, which was great, but then it dropped again because I wasn't listing. I went 2 days, like maybe 3 days without listing. No, I'm not using the Blue Yeti tonight because I am using my cell phone to do my live stream with. It has a clearer picture. It's much clearer than it's been using my other camera, and so I'm using my little microphone, but it should be just as clear, if not better, than the Blue Yeti. Blue Yeti. What do you think about that? Do you like the little microphone? So this is the sales for my eBay store for the last 31 days. I've sold items valuing total at sales at $4,283.70, with taxes at $252.17. Selling cost was $1,464.15, and my total net sales was $2,567.38. That's what I brought home. So that's my net. It's up 10.7% versus the prior time period. A total of 64 items sold at an average sales price of $66.93, and all of them sold using fixed price. None of them were sold through auction. I don't like auctions unless it's a very rare item or something that you are not familiar with. Yeah, I don't care too much for auctions. But looks like video games has dropped from number 1 to number 3. Number 1 is now collectibles at 9% of my total sales for $386.35, and it's up 854.8%. And what this really accounts for is some of the items that I've mentioned in my last live stream last weekend. I bought a couple of those Jim Beam decanters from another guy in the flea market. You know, the fire truck decanters that I showed you on last week's live stream. That accounts for some of that. But I also, this week, I bought 2 more decanters from him. I bought a 1967 Ford Mustang decanter, and I bought a 1957 Chevy Bel Air decanter from him, and both of those sold also. And then I bought 2 Elvis decanters from him as well. Maybe I can show you guys those too, but the decanters have been selling and they've been doing really well, so I'm really happy with that. Computers, tablets, and networking is 7.66%. That's computer tablets, desktops, and Apple desktops all in one. That would be that big Apple computer that I showed you last weekend for $328.03. That's just one item. Musical instruments and gear. I've sold guitars. I've sold 2 guitars, one bass guitar, electric bass guitar, and then the other bass guitar, or the other guitar, the 6-string, sold this week. The Yamaha that I showed you on last week's live. That sold this week. So that's a total of $308.89 for those 2 guitars. And video games and consoles. This is mainly video games because my consoles have not been selling lately. And I think that's because people are just are finding them somewhere else. The market is becoming flooded with video game consoles, so they're not unless you're selling them for almost nothing, they're not selling very fast now. So that was a little niche I had for a while that was doing really well, and it's not doing so well now online, but I am doing pretty good selling them in my booth. So it's working out. I'm still selling the consoles, just not as many online. Consumer electronics, TV, video, and home audio, Blu-ray players. Yeah, I sold a couple of Blu-ray players for $249. Musical instruments, guitars, basses, $165.98. Home and garden, $146.05. Smoke alarms, home security, home improvement. Sporting goods, tactical duty gear. Yeah, I sold a tactical bag it was sold for over $100. It was a really nice tactical bag, and it had a bunch of compartments to it, kind of heavy duty, and it sold for over $100. So that's what that counts for, $138. And then shoes, men's shoes, $130.30. Toys and hobbies, $120.87, so 2.82% of the stuff that I sold. So that gives you kind of a idea of what kind of stuff that I've been selling in my eBay store. I wish that the video game consoles would pick up a little bit. They're kind of slow selling. So I'll kind of go through everything and just show you what has sold. Over the weekend, I sold this DVD for $11.25, so not much at all. And then I sold this little vintage 1980s. If you're older, you might have remember seeing these in the. They came in the General Mills cereals, and this is called a glow-in-the-dark toy called Bags. There were a couple of different ones, and these were glow-in-the-dark. And this one is sold for $31.49. Now, interesting story about this. I got this one and another one very similar to it, but not the same. You know how these thrift stores will make these bags up and put just a bunch of toys in them? That's what they did, and I bought this bag for like $3 full of toys, and it had this and it had another one in them, and these sold for about $30 a piece, so about $60 I made off of that $3 bag of toys. I sold this Halloween strobe light also. And I sold one of these Monster High, that strobe light. I sold it for $11.16, so I basically gave it away. It looks like it originally sold for $12.99. I think I paid $1 for it at a yard sale. This Monster High Freaky Fab Light Up Diary sold for $17.99. I bought a stack of these at the thrift store for about $1 a piece, and I still have a bunch of them left. They've been selling sporadically, one at a time, for around $17 or $18 a piece, which is pretty good considering, you know, I paid $1 for them. So the ones that I have, you know, I've already made all my money back. So every one that I sell, I'm making money. This sedan here, this is model kit. It was new in the box, factory sealed, sold for $34.20. And I picked this up when I was in Florida in, I think it was April, visiting my aunt. We went yard selling. It was at one yard sale. They had a bunch of models that were sealed. If you find models and if you're selling on eBay and you find models that are sealed in the box, they're always a good pickup. So this one sold for $34.20. And this is, it's a remake of the Nintendo Entertainment System. These are like in the, you can buy them new now. It looks like an original Nintendo, but it's tiny. It's really small. You see the controller is the same size as the original controllers, and that's about as wide as the whole console of this right here. So I picked this up at the thrift store for $10, and it sold for $81. But I also put a demonstration on here to show. This thing has like 81 games with it that are already preloaded. Back in the day, you would have had to buy all these games, but they're already preloaded onto this console. But having all those games already loaded on, putting the video on the listing really helps sell the item. I sold this little 2013 Disney Tinkerbell doll for $8.99. It came in one of those bags full of miscellaneous toys and dolls. So I usually generally don't sell stuff for under $10, but this is one of the things that I just listed and it sold. So sold a book of hours for devotions for $17.09. This is a new book. This is one of those decanters I was telling you about. This is the Mustang. Isn't that pretty cool looking? You take the top of it off, and in the back seat, that's where, right there is where the bottle cap is. But it's made out of porcelain, except for this top part is plastic, and the wheels, of course, are plastic. But it's made out of porcelain. Looks pretty cool. I paid $29 for this, and it sold for $68. I bought it from a guy off of that had another booth. So this is the other Yamaha guitar that I showed you. I showed you this Yamaha guitar last week that I had sitting in my store for a long time. I paid $40 a piece for these guitars. The bass guitar, which is also an electric and an acoustic, sold for like $250, and this Yamaha acoustic 6-string sold for $144. And then I sold this Sylvester NASCAR style jacket. This came in the stuff that I bought from my friend George's son, the George that was killed. This was in the storage building, and I paid like $800 for all the stuff that I had. So it's hard to tell what I had exactly into this jacket because I had several other jackets as well. But this one sold for $121.50, and it's got Sylvester the cat on it. The jacket was in pretty good condition. It was a really large jacket, but it had a little bit of bleeding from the colors. And here's the other decanter that I sold. This decanter is the 1957 Chevy. And this thing is also beautiful. Really neat looking. Looks like an actual 1957 Chevy, but it's a decanter. It had originally came with bourbon in it. So just about all the decanters that I bought off of that guy have sold. So apparently they're a good item to pick up. They sold really quick too. And then I sold a Genuine Brother toner cartridge for $42.51, and I bought that at a yard sale for $5. This Google Nest smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, this sold for $122.40. I think I paid $5 for this at a yard sale. Sold some of these Allegria, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but they're nursing shoes for $40.50. I paid $5 for those at a yard sale. So that's just some of the stuff that I've been selling lately. It's done pretty good as far as eBay is going. Let me catch up on these. Gumball Gold says the audio is good. I'm glad. I love these little these little microphones come in their own case, and the receiver and the transmitter. The transmitter is long. It just goes in your phone, and it comes with these two. They're called Hollyland. Comes with these two microphones. and the transmitter plugs into the phone, and they're really clear. I really love how these Hollyland microphones work. By the way, if you're watching this later, retirement is underrated. Tim, I saw your video tonight, and you mentioned that someone you can't remember told you to get Hollyland microphones, and you were using that on your video tonight that you posted today. That was me. So next time you get on there and you do a video, say, my friend Sam with Retire Inspired is the one that suggested that I get the Hollyland microphones. They're really good microphones too. Invisible River, welcome. Where you been, buddy? I'm glad you made it. Better late than never. Okay, Gumball Gold says he thinks I need to stop buying things until 3/4 of my inventory is sold because I have stuff stored then available for sale. I'm worried that you're going into a hoarder. Well, Gumball, Jim, your fears are warranted. Your fears are definitely warranted. I am a little bit fearful myself. I have tripped over my stuff and almost fell and hurt myself. So, you know, and I'm still in my 50s. Just wait till I get in my 70s and 80s. More stuff stored. Yeah, I have 4 storage buildings, remember? Don't forget. Don't forget, I have 4 storage buildings. Invisible River says, you can never tell what you're doing when it comes to that until it's too late and you're all filled up. Can't buy no more storage buildings. That's true. I can't buy any more storage buildings. I'm out of land. I don't have any more land to put them on, but you know what? If I had another piece of property that was level enough for me to put more storage buildings on, I think I'd be in trouble. But anyway, I have, looks like I'm at 1 hour and 12 minutes, so I've gone 12 minutes over my regular hour that I normally do. I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight's live stream, and I hope that you got something out of it. I wanted to put in that part tonight talking about September 11th because September 11th was a day like December 7th, 1941. Or was it 1940? Anyway, Pearl Harbor Day. We were attacked in Pearl Harbor. But not as many people died in Pearl Harbor as died in the World Trade Centers. And then after the World Trade Centers, people died of multiple illnesses and disease that was due to the World Trade Centers. But that's not even counting the wars that started after the World Trade Centers fell. We had Iraq, we had Afghanistan. We've lost many soldiers, male and female, since that time, brave men and women who have served our country, who have died for our country since that time. And that's the impact on me personally. You know, I saw people die on September 11th falling out of windows 150 stories high, head first, upside down with their feet up, watching it on live TV. That's devastating. And for, the person that did that, or the person that was behind that, not just Saddam Hussein, he was part of it, but Bin Laden, he got what he deserved. He got his reward for his actions. So I can't say where he is now, but he is not breathing the same air that we're breathing, which is a good thing. But a lot of folks lost their lives on September 11th, and I remember it every year. I was actually serving overseas in Kyrgyzstan on the 15th. I believe it was the 15th anniversary of September 11th. So even though I wasn't in New York City and I wasn't physically involved with what happened there on that sad day, my life was profoundly affected afterwards because I was serving in the military at the time. My unit was activated, and we served a year of active duty after that, from November of 2001 until November of 2002. I was on active duty orders, but my orders were actually for 2 years, but they released us after a year. And we could have stayed on if we wanted to, but if we wanted to go back to our regular lives, we could do that as well. But, my life was really changed when all that happened. My children were very young at the time. Um, it was 2011, not 2001. It was 2011, 9/11/01. Or was it 2001? Oh my goodness. Things are just... Anyway. So Chuck is with us. Good to see you on here, Chuck. How are you doing tonight? Chuck says he was on duty and watched it all unfold on a fire station TV. Well, Chuck, can you share with us how 9/11 affected you after 9/11? I am interested in hearing your story about what it was like that particular day, because we all remember where we were, those of us who were living during that time. We all know where we were, just like when Kennedy was assassinated, or when I'm sure that in December 7th, when was the day that Pearl Harbor happened. They all knew where they were when that happened. And I think everyone that was alive and was near a TV set or could watch a TV set that day, it was so sad. It was just devastating for that to happen, to watch those huge buildings crumble to the ground, knowing that people were inside of them and they would never see another day. But I always remember that when September 11th comes around. I always keep that in my mind, and I think about, what all happened that day, and how it has affected my life since then. Of course, for those people who lost family members, their lives were truly affected, much more than mine. But those folks, especially the firefighters, the EMTs, the paramedics, the Port Authority, anybody who went up in that building and put themselves at risk, and they put their lives in danger, many of them didn't even make it out of there. Most of them didn't make it out of there. Those were real heroes, and they deserve our undying gratitude, and they need to be remembered. On September 11th, they need to be remembered. Chuck says, we were in shock, of course, and being the firefighters, we identified with the brothers and sisters who died. And I was, also a police officer when that happened. There were lots of police officers as well that died on September 11th who went into that building. They were going up while everybody else was going down. They were going to the fight. Everybody else was running away, which they should have been. Everybody else should have been getting away, and people were panicking, and it was just chaos. It was one of the worst days in American history. But I'm glad that our country has moved on past that time. But I wanted to also share before I leave this live stream, I want to share with you how touched I was after September 11th, how our country came together. It was amazing. It was the first time in a long time that I really saw solidarity between Americans of all walks of life. People from New York to Louisiana to Florida, California, all over the United States. And I could not walk anywhere in uniform for the next year. After I got activated in my Air Force unit, I was activated, like I was saying, put on presidential orders for 2 years. when I walked around in my uniform, I could not walk anywhere without someone saying thank you for your service. And people still do that. People still say thank you for your service. And I really appreciated that. Now, I think since that time, we've kind of settled back in our ways and we're not as thankful to our military as we should be. But if you see a military member or if you know a military member, thank them and tell them that you appreciate them and you appreciate the sacrifices that they're making for you, for their families, and for the world, so that we will live in a more peaceful country, that we will have peace through prosperity, but also through strength, and that we will not have to worry about being attacked, because the folks that attack us, they know that we're going to come get them, that they're not going to walk away from it. So Jim with Gumball Gold says he's still getting over the shock of Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. That's another thing. Charlie was just living his life. He was a Christian and he preached the gospel, and he was not ashamed of the gospel. He was not ashamed of God. He was not ashamed of sharing the word of God and proclaiming Jesus Christ as the Son of God. And he did that on a daily basis. And this person who thought that he didn't deserve to be in the world anymore just decided to get up on a rooftop with a sniper rifle and take his life. And that wasn't right. That wasn't right at all. The man had a 3-year-old and a I don't know how old his children were. I know one was 3, one's maybe a little bit younger. But he had 2 small children and a wife. And he was just sharing his belief in Christ with other people. And when he was talking with folks, he was very respectful of them. He allowed people who had very liberal beliefs that didn't know if they were a man or a woman, or believed they were a woman when they were a man, or other things, that were contrary to what normal things should be. He was very respectful of them. He let them get up and speak their piece and say what they wanted to say. He deserved respect. He did not deserve to be gunned down the way he was, but when they did that, they don't know what kind of thing that they unleashed, because now they're the people who believe the way that Charlie Kirk believes or believed. They're more resolved now than they've ever been, and they will continue to be resolved in their belief, and his movement is going to continue, and it's not only just going to continue, it's going to get stronger. So you can look for that, and you can look for the right wing to get even more right and even more strong. So like I said, I have Gumball Gold Jim, during this anniversary of 9/11, Charlie's death outshadowed it. Yeah. I can't say Charlie's death outshadowed it for me. It may have for you. It did not for me, because September 11th is the day that I'm always going to remember, because it was a day that changed America, and it changed each of us, and some of us more profoundly than others. For those people, like I said, who had family members that died that day as a result of that attack. Or I should say those attacks, because there were multiple attacks. There were 2 buildings, World Trade Center buildings, and then the Pentagon, and then the one at Shanksville that went to the ground. A lot of folks died that day, and a lot of lives were impacted. A lot of lives were changed forever. But I will never forget 9/11, not ever. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out tonight's live stream. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight, and I appreciate you guys joining in on the conversation. It's always good to get feedback from you guys. Chuck and Jim, I'm glad that you were able to, and also Invisible River. I'm glad you were able to join us, even though it was a little bit late. I'm glad that you got on here. Marty, always good to see you. Valerie, thank you for being on. And CG Anime Fan, thank you for being on as well. We'll be back next week, next Sunday at 7:30, hopefully. I'll be in North Carolina by then, and I can do a live stream from my van in North Carolina if I make it in time. Now, if I don't make it in time, then I won't post it. I won't do a live stream. Um, but if I can get to North Carolina where I'm going to be for the night in time, then I will certainly be doing a live stream. So look forward to that, and it, be sure and look for it to see if I post it in the morning time, there will be a live stream. If I don't post it in the morning time, there will not be a live stream. So like I said, look for that, and we will see you guys next week on next Sunday, hopefully. If not, then it'll be the following Sunday. But I appreciate you guys being here tonight. And I hope you guys have a terrific week. And I'll see you guys next week. So take care and love you. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.